Hi everybody, this is Randy from Randy's Crafty Creations, and I wanted to come to you today making to show you how I made this card. This Here For You card that I made using the Blossoming Basket stamp set and the Basket Weave Dynamic Embossing folder. Okay, so now these two items come together as a bundle, and they are free with a $100 purchase from Celebration. Celebration runs through the end of March, and these were releases that were just released on February 16th. So there's a couple more things in here. There's a happy birthday set. There's some really pretty paper, and then the bundle. Now, the embossing folder is going to carry over into our next annual catalog, but it's a dynamic embossing folder, okay? Super thick. I don't know if you can see that. I don't know if you can see that at all, but embosses super, super deep. Look at that. Isn't that nice? So I made this card using that, and I also did, I used my blender pen, did an emboss resist technique while I was coloring, but I also used embossing powder and embossed the basket in the soft suede. So I'm going to show you how to do that. I have another video about that that I filmed about a year ago, but I'm going to go ahead and show you that since I'm showing you this card. So to get started, you're going to need a foam brayer. You're going to need some Versamark ink, one of our blender pens, or a water brush. Okay, the inks I used are Soft Suede, Pink Pirouette, Crumb Cake, and Daffodil Delight. All right, and I've got my basket on a size E block and my sentiment on a size H block. All right, for your paper, put this back over here. For your paper, you're going to take a sheet of 8.5 by 11, cut it in half, score it right down the middle, and that's going to give you your card that's going to measure 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. That's A2 size, so it'll fit in your invitation size envelopes. You're going to need a piece, sorry, this is an early espresso. You're going to need a piece of crumb cake, which is cut 4 by 5 1/4. This is the one we're going to emboss. We're going to stamp on this piece of Very Vanilla that is 3 1/8 by 3 1/8. And then I have another piece of early espresso that's a little bit bigger, that's 3 1/4 by 3 1/4. And then I just have a piece of scrap that I'm going to stamp on to make the little sentiment flag. So let's go ahead and get started. Let me move these pieces over here. And the first thing that we're going to do is stamp our basket. Okay, and this is a foam rubber stamp, so I'm just going to stamp it right on here. Okay, and the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take our Versamark ink, and yes, my Versamark pad is well loved, and we're going to go ahead and ink up our stamp. Okay, now we're going to, I put the ink on there, and then if we turn around and we go ahead and we stamp it with our soft suede ink, we are going to make it so that it's going to emboss it in soft suede. The answer to the question you're probably asking right now is, will the Versamark hurt my ink pad? And the answer is no. I do this all the time. My ink pads are just fine. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp it down. Make sure I have good coverage there. And I do. All right. So you can see it looks a little wet. All right, I'm going to get my piece of scrap paper. Close up my ink for right now. And I'm going to get my clear embossing powder, which I have in just a plastic container because I use it a lot. And we're going to go ahead and emboss the basket. So I'm just going to spin it in here because I don't know where my spoon went. I lost it yesterday. I'm sure it's on my craft table somewhere, but it's okay. Let me get the excess off. All right, and that's covered nicely, and we're going to go ahead and heat emboss that. All right, so I have my embossing tool here, and our tool has 2 settings, medium and high. So I'm going to let it go ahead and warm up for just a moment, and then we'll heat emboss. The other question I get asked a lot is, can you heat emboss with a hair dryer? No, you cannot. Okay, it's the constant heat that comes out of the heat tool that sets that embossing pattern. If you sit and watch it, you can see that it looks kind of dull. There it goes. And as it heats up, it brightens. Do not burn your fingers. Hold it hold it with tweezers if you need to. But can you see it going? And with the soft suede, it's giving it almost a copper look. Okay, let me turn it. Get the rest. Some people bounce back and forth with it. You don't need to. You can hold it on one area and it'll work just fine. So I don't know if you can see how shiny that is, but that's all embossed. Oh, there's a spot right here I missed. Give me a second. There we go. There we go. So now I got it all. Just nice and embossed like that. I just wanted it to have that look. So, all right, that will color in. So let me go ahead and move this aside. Now, I'm going to let it cool off for just a second, and I'm going to go ahead and stamp my sentiment on my little piece of scrap. Very vanilla, and I also did that in the soft suede. And you could turn around and emboss that too. I did not, but you certainly could with the same technique. Here for you is what I used. Perfect. And then we'll flag that. All right. So now I want to go ahead, and we're going to set this aside for a minute. I want to go ahead and we're going to color this in. So I was thinking about coloring my basket in the crumb cake. And then once I started that yesterday, I decided that I liked the difference in colors by using the crumb cake and the soft suede. So we'll go ahead and do the crumb cake first. So you have your ink pad. If you take your ink pad and you give it a nice squeeze, give it some love, you're going to transfer some ink to the top of the pad. Excuse me. And that's what you're going to use as your paint palette. All right, so I'm going to use my blender pen. And again, you can use one of our aqua painters or a blender pen. And I'm just going to sit and color inside. So the part that's the resist is I'm just coloring. And the ink is going on the paper. But it's not going outside of the lines on the handle, which is nice. I'm going to turn it sideways, and I'm just going to play in here for a little bit in the basket. And again, I'm not coloring neatly because, you know, it's a basket and it's woven and there's all different variations of color. So I'm going to take advantage of that with what I'm doing. And I'm going to put a little down here. And I'm just putting my blender pen in my ink on my stamp pad. And you can make it darker by adding more. Thin it out when you color by having less on your brush. But it's pretty because in this way, each of your ink pads is also a paint palette. All right, so I've got that, and I might want to darken it up later. We'll see as it dries, or I might want to leave it like that. I'm not sure. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and get our others. So I did that with the crumb cake. All right, I'm going to do, oh, I forgot. I'm so sorry. I forgot I used Pear Pizzazz in there too for the greenery. So I'm going to have to pull out that ink pad. So I'll get to that in a second. But I'm going to get some of the Daffodil Delight. I'm using the same blender pen. I just wiped it off on a piece of paper next to me to make sure I'm not transferring any of the ink. Okay, or a lot of times I just wipe it off with my hands. Give me a second. Let me get the Pear Pizzazz. Okay. And let's do some of that greenery. So So again, I just squished my ink pad. Get my blender pen, make sure it's clean. Okay, and I'm going to work on some of this greenery in here. And I want those leaves to be kind of dark. So I'm going to dip it in the ink every time. Okay. Let me go ahead and do these. And I don't mind if some of these get lighter. So I've got them darker at the ends and lighter in there, just for some color variation. So here. Okay. So we've got that. So now I'm going to go ahead and close that up. And I'm going to get my pink pirouette. And that's what color I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do my flowers. So let's go ahead and squish that real good, because I want to use a lot of that. Sorry, I hear footsteps upstairs. I'm waiting for one of my kids to come down and not realize I'm filming. So I'm kind of sort of talking and looking over my shoulder at the same time. All right. So now we're going to use the pink pirouette. Again, same blender pen. I just cleaned it off. And I'm going to go ahead and color. And I'm just going to keep going. I want that watercolor look in here. So I'm just going to keep going. And you could make these flowers, you know, 3 different colors. I could do the pink here. And I could do a yellow. I could do a coral. But that's the pink pirouette. Doesn't that work out nice? So let me go ahead and squeeze, because I need more. Got more on there. It's just a very light pink, which I love. And like I said, you can go over it more than once, and you can get darker variations, or you can go ahead and just go over it with your blender pen or your aqua painter, and with less ink, and have more of that watercolor look. Let me keep going. I'm almost done. Let me make this one darker. I love the variations in the shading, doing it this way. Almost done. Then we're going to get our big shot. And we're going to do a cool technique. So I've got 2 techniques in this video, because we're going to do a cool technique with our embossing folder that I wanted to share with you. So let me finish shading my flowers here, and there we go. So I'm just about done. Isn't that pretty? So it's going to be our main focal piece on our card. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get rid of all these. I'm going to keep the soft suede. Just give me 1 second here. Clean off my blender pen. Again, I do it on my hand. This is what it is. All the supplies that I used, I will have linked to the bottom of this video. All right, so that you can go ahead and recreate this card. So I'm going to get my soft suede ink. Okay, and I'm going to get my sponge brayer. And I'm going to get my embossing folder. All right, on the part, it's the side that says Stampin' Up. All right, you're going to go ahead and you're going to take this sponge brayer and you're going to ink it up. Okay, and you're going to ink the inside of your embossing folder. Now, you can ink it as heavy or as light as you want to. It's up to you with the amount of ink that you want to see when we emboss our piece of crumb cake paper. All right, so let me keep going here. You don't want to necessarily press hard. You just want to go over it multiple times to get that ink to transfer. Okay, so I know I'm doing this on my green mat, but if you look at it, I don't know if you can see the brown that's in there. So look at the two sides. You know, the side is clear and the side is now brown. So just a little bit more. Okay. Close this up. All right, so we're going to take this piece of crumb cake. We're going to lay it on the embossing folder. And we are going to run it through the Big Shot to emboss it. All right. So let me grab that. Sorry, my filming space is small to work in, so I have to go back and forth a lot, so I apologize. So you're going to use the Big Shot platform that came with your Big Shot, and then one of your cutting mats, okay? And that's how these embossing folders will fit through your machine. So let's go ahead and crank it through. All right, let me put this aside. Okay. And when we open it up, you will see that some of the ink transferred. You can see it in the cracks, but transferred into your basket weave. Isn't that pretty? See how light that side is? This side is much darker because I just really wanted that in the cracks and crevices to give it more dimension. So you can go ahead and soap and water. We'll clean it right up. Not a problem. So we'll clean that up when we're done. Oops, sorry. All right. So we've got that piece there. We're going to go ahead and we're going to use our snail adhesive to attach this piece to our piece of early espresso. Give it a little bit of a border. Okay. And then that's going to end up going on there with some dimensionals. All right, now this piece. So this piece is embossed, okay? So it's a little bit thicker. So I would recommend that you use something a little bit stronger than the snail. So I've got my fast fuse. All right, and I'm going to put that on. And I'm going to go ahead and run 3 strips there, 2 strips on the side, because we don't want this lifting up. And again, it's dimensional, so it's not going to want to lay flat in the first place. All right, I am going to go ahead and lay that on there. Just like so. Okay. All right, then I'm going to go ahead and grab some of our dimensionals. And I'm going to put those on the back. This size piece, especially because it's going on an embossed background, I'm going to go ahead and give it 5. So the 4, actually I'm going to give it 6. So the 4 corners and then the middle. Okay, go ahead and peel those off. All right, we're going to put that right about there. Okay, so now this one says here for you. So let me grab my trimmer. All right, and I am just going to go ahead and trim this extra off. I usually don't trim my little sentiment pieces when I'm using scraps. I usually don't trim them until after I stamp my sentiment in case I have to straighten them out. Okay, that's my scoring blade. Here we go with my cutting blade. So your cutting blade and your scoring blade are both on there. So here for you. So I've got that. Okay. And now I'm going to take my scissors. Let me cut that scrap off. Okay. We have our triple banner punch, which I love on something this small, though I go ahead and flag it myself. So if you just cut a little slit up and you cut one side and the other side, you get a nice even banner. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and put some snail on that. I'm going to lay it on my piece of scrap early espresso from my other card. Okay, and then this time I'm just going to follow the lines. because it should be nice and centered. All right. Awesome. Let me go ahead and grab some dimensionals. 1, 2, and 3. All right. So again, I really wanted to show you how to make a card using this stamp set and embossing folder, because I absolutely love them, and I think they're a great offering for free during celebration with a $100 purchase. So I'll have all the items for this linked below. I hope you enjoyed the 2 techniques that I showed you, one with inking your embossing folder, and then one with going ahead and turning any type of ink into an embossed image. So again, you'll find everything linked below. We are in the middle of celebration. It goes through March 31st, 2018, and I will have the links to the catalogs below as well. Feel free, if you have any questions, you can email me at randycollins.247@gmail.com. You can visit my site, randyscraftycreations.com, or Randy's Crafty Creations on Facebook for more project ideas and inspiration. And you can shop 24/7 on my shopping page, randycollins.stampinup.net. So again, thank you so much for watching. I'm Randy from Randy's Crafty Creations, and have a great day.